if the exempt asset amount next year is going to be $130,000, which it is, that's what we've been told. Next year it's going to be $130,000. If all you have is $130,000 and then you transfer $10,000, Medi-Cal doesn't care about that because you transferred an exempt asset. And right now, in 2025, we have no asset limits. They're all exempt assets. So if you're in a situation where you're seriously, I'm going to need to go on Medi-Cal pretty soon, or I'm already on Medi-Cal, transfer in 2025. Get going. Yeah, get going.
Do you have a family member that might need to go into a skilled nursing home and you might need to use Medi-Cal to pay for that long-term stay? In this video, I speak with elder law attorney Kirsten Howe on the different ways that this can be accomplished, whether it's spending down or transferring money or creating an irrevocable trust. Here are the tips and tools from an expert herself on how to make this happen so you can use Medi-Cal for a long-term nursing home stay. All right, Kirsten, thank you so much for joining us today. You are one of my go-tos for elder law planning, and I'm so excited to have you on my YouTube channel. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Ellen. I'm very honored that you invited me because I know you know a lot of people. So thank you.
You bet. Well, and I think, our focus today is on Medi-Cal planning. And I think that's so important to so many people. Someday, our government will figure out how to provide health insurance to everybody, but we're not quite there yet.
But today is not that day.
No, today's not that day, and it's even gone back a little bit, which is so discouraging. But anyways, first of all, can you maybe just give our audience an overview? So we're talking about Medi-Cal, which is California's version of the federal Medicaid program. Can you give us an overview of how this has changed recently and how that affects people?
Right. So the big change that we're here to talk about primarily today is that for 2 years, we had moved away from asset limits for certain types of Medi-Cal, and now we're moving back to having asset limits again. So, yeah. So we're going back to the 2022 rules, reinstating asset limits, and the asset limits will be what they were in 2022. So that is a big change. There are probably a lot of people out there who qualified for Medi-Cal in the last 2 years and now will find themselves with too much assets when the rule goes back to what it used to be, which that's going to happen effective January 1st.
Of 2026. Yep.
Right.
Okay. So there's really, in my understanding, there's kind of two categories of Medi-Cal recipients. You have people who are in the community who are receiving Medi-Cal, like a lot of my clients. They're disabled and they receive Medi-Cal, or they're low income, so they receive Medi-Cal. Then you also have elderly people who need to go into a skilled nursing facility, and Medi-Cal will pay some skilled nursing facilities, not all of them. So, and that's really more elder law. And you probably do both, but it's the elder law part that I'm not so familiar with. So I'd love to hear more
Right.
from you about that, right? So let's say somebody has some money and then they need to go into a nursing home. What should they be thinking about? What protective steps can they take?
Okay. So for that type of Medi-Cal, the type of Medi-Cal that pays for nursing home care for long-term care, not because you got injured and you were landed in the hospital and now you need to be in skilled, but for long-term care is what we're talking about. There are going to be asset limits, as we've said. And if you have too much, you kind of have three things you can do. You can spend money, you can buy things. You can convert what we call non-exempt assets to exempt assets. And that's basically spending money, but kind of spending money on very specific things like paying down your mortgage, improving your home, making additions to your home, doing repairs to your home, those kinds of things, because your home is an exempt asset. So figuring out a way to convert non-exempt assets like cash in the bank to exempt assets. And then the third thing is transfers. And what that means in the Medi-Cal world is giving assets to somebody else as like a gift. You're not getting anything in return. It's not spending. It's just, here you go. I'm getting rid of these assets. And Medi-Cal doesn't like that. You get
What?
punished for doing that. So you have to do it mindfully. You have to do it carefully. It's not that you can't do it. You just don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah, so give us an
Okay.
example. Let's say somebody has $1 million of savings and they don't want to have to, because I mean, spending it that down, that's going to take a while. You're depleting assets. You don't get to pass it on to the next generation. That sounds awful. So, how can you do this creative gifting that you're talking about?
Yeah.
And is this available anywhere else?
That's a really excellent question. And we should say this right out of the gate. I'm only talking about California law. I'm talking about Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal rules are different from every other state. The other 49 states are very similar to each other. California is very different. So if you're not in California, don't listen to what I'm saying. Doesn't matter to you.
And if you're
Um,
doing research on ChatGPT, don't apply it to California because you won't find this information.
That's exactly right. We got that out of the way. So in your scenario, we have a person who has $1 million in the bank. And I just want to point out too that this isn't only about, hiding the money so we can qualify for Medi-Cal. People on Medi-Cal need money, and Medi-Cal doesn't allow you to keep any money. It allows you to keep very little. So there's a real good reason to protect the money besides just I want to leave it to my children. Medi-Cal allows you can have your asset limit, and from your income you get to keep $35 a month.
That's so wrong.
So that's going to pay for toothpaste,
For a movie ticket, you know?
shampoo. That's not going to pay your cell phone bill. Doesn't, nothing. So there are good reasons to protect the assets. Okay, so I'm not stalling. It just takes me a while to
No,
get
no,
there.
this is really, it's so
A
important.
million dollars. So if you have $1 million, that is probably way too much because the asset limit next year is going to be 130,000 in addition to your home, your car, and various other little things that Medi-Cal allows you to have. Those are called exempt assets, the 130,000. So if we got to get down to 130,000, that's, almost 900,000 that you've got to gift. You could do that in one big giant gift to a child or to several children. We like to plan using irrevocable trusts a lot of times because we don't want that money to get frittered away by the children when it's your money and you need it. We also don't like it to be unprotected in a child's bank account. We like it to be protected in an irrevocable trust. But anyway, in California, and I have to keep emphasizing, in California, you get penalized based on the size of the gift that you make. So let's say you made a $900,000 gift. We got to calculate a penalty based on $900,000. And the penalty is a period of time where you are otherwise eligible for Medi-Cal, but you're not going to get it because you're sitting in the penalty box. If you make, instead of one $900,000 gift, you make two $450,000 gifts. And by two, I mean to two different people or on two different days. Now we have a penalty based on $450,000. So shorter time in the penalty box, and you can make multiple, every single gift starts its own penalty period and they all run at the same time. This
That's
is
amazing.
this is awesome that we still have this because in California we have not adopted the federal rules that all the other states have. That's why we are different and we can do these things. We can do it. I mean, it basically is true. If you have too much, you can get rid of it and you can become eligible for Medi-Cal. In other states, they have what we call half a loaf planning. At most, they can get rid of half without penalty and without losing half the money. So anyway,
So I have a funny story if I can just interject. So I started working at a firm that does elder law planning in 2008. And as you know, the Deficit Reduction Act was passed in 2005, right? And that's the one that got rid of all this planning. And we were expecting in California, like every week, we would meet and say,
right.
okay, have they passed it yet? Have they passed it yet? That was 2008. They still haven't enacted it. And so now we're not really expecting them to. But I just thought that was so
Yeah.
funny that, like, I remember when
Yeah.
we
Oh,
thought
yeah.
it's done. There's no more of this planning, but here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And it's good for our
That's right.
clients for sure.
Every week we were, yeah, watching and waiting. And here we are 20 years later. Hasn't happened. And we keep tinkering with different things in Medi-Cal. It's not like nobody's paying attention to it, but I think there just isn't the will to to make it that harsh, in our legislature. They're just not like we can't do that.
Amen. I'm so
So,
glad.
right. I mean that we are in the right, we're closer to the right place than the other 49 states. We're not in the right place, but we're closer. So the size of the penalty is based on, like I said, the value of the gift divided by a divisor that Medi-Cal uses, which is called the average private pay rate, which is a number that they make up that they think is this is like the average cost of a stay in a nursing home for a month. So right now it's $13,656. So in my scenario, the $900,000 gift, we would divide it by that number and we would come up with, I don't even know, let's just say 25. I don't even know. I don't want to do that math. But we come up with a number, and that is the number of months that, yes, you're eligible for Medi-Cal, but you're not getting it because you're in the penalty box. So that's how they do it. What I want to point out, Ellen, is that you can transfer exempt assets without a penalty.
Hmm.
Okay, so if the exempt asset amount next year is going to be $130,000, which it is, that's what we've been told. Next year it's going to be $130,000. If all you have is $130,000 and then you transfer $10,000, that Medi-Cal doesn't care about that because you transferred an exempt asset. And right now in 2025, we have no asset limits. They're all exempt assets. So if you're in a situation where you're seriously, I'm going to need to go on Medi-Cal pretty soon, or I'm already on Medi-Cal, transfer in
Oh,
2025.
Kirsten.
Get going. Yeah, get going.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have this little window if that's your unique situation.
One more question. If you're not in that situation yet, but you're worried you might get there in the future, what are some planning steps that you can take to kind of prepare for this?
Well, I would say it's a good idea to meet with somebody who does this kind of planning, an attorney who does this kind of planning earlier rather than later, because the more time you have to plan ahead, the less onerous the planning is. The setting up the irrevocable trust and transferring assets into that's the best strategy in my opinion. Sometimes families will say, no, we're just going to transfer it directly to our children. And I have to, give them my
Your
big
spiel.
long disclaimer, like
Yep.
this is not a good idea. But you have to, you also have to have a family structure that's going to work for this because it involves, either way, it involves trust. And I mean family trust, not legal trust. You got to have a family that's going to work together in this situation. So, figuring that all of this stuff out, I think now as early as you can, because we might in the next year, we might go back down to $2,000. That's where it always was forever. And now we're just taking that baby step down to $130,000.
Well, Governor Newsom had proposed it going down to 2000 and luckily there was such a stink that was raised that they negotiated to 130,000, but yeah, you never know. These are scary times.
Yeah, and it's kind of understandable in a way. We got to balance the budget in California. We don't get to print money like the federal government does. The budget has to balance. It's just unfortunate that it's
And it's on the
happening on the
backs of elderly
backs of
people. Yeah.
disabled elderly people. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Kirsten. So this planning is called elder law planning, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I would call it Medi-Cal planning
Medi-Cal
because
planning. Okay,
there are other things like there's veterans benefits planning. Some attorneys do that. I don't, but Medi-Cal planning, I would
okay,
say.
wonderful. And we'll put down at the bottom if somebody wants to reach out to you or your firm, we'll have all that contact information
Oh,
because we're
great.
so happy to have you as a resource on our channel. And thank you for breaking this down into clear language that people can understand so we all know our options. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. And thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Okay, thanks. Now, if you've ever felt confused or overwhelmed by Medi-Cal eligibility and spend down rules, you're definitely not alone. We hope that this conversation has given you some clarity and peace of mind. For more guidance on protecting benefits while planning for the future, please subscribe to our channel and explore the different videos on special needs trusts, Medi-Cal updates, and financial planning for families with disabilities.
If this video is helpful for you, share it to someone else who might benefit from it.